listening to another outstanding edition of the Stronger Marriage Podcast with your hosts, Trey and Lee Morgan.
Hey guys, welcome to the podcast today. We are glad you are here. This is our second podcast. We had lots of feedback and lots of listeners on the first, which makes us really excited. We're hoping that you will subscribe to the podcast. It is now on iTunes. It is on Android. It's on Google. It's on Spotify. Whatever you listen to podcasts on, this is there, and you can subscribe to it so it shows up every week there on Wednesdays when we record. But we're glad you're here, and I'm glad to have my beautiful wife, Miss Lee, with me.
Hello, hello.
We're talking today about how to put some spark back into your marriage. Just some things you can do, romance-wise, to try and get some spark, some connection back in there. I don't know. It seems to me that the longer you're married, sometimes it's easy to get a little too comfortable in marriage. And we always say that marriage doesn't kill romance, laziness does. Is when you just kind of expect your spouse to do things, you take them for granted, you quit working so hard, and you become comfortable in marriage, and you kind of start being roommates instead of soulmates. And so that's kind of the direction we're going to go today. Wanted to start, I told Lee I was going to kick it off today, and wanted to start and let you know, if you haven't got a Valentine's Day present, it is coming up. Our book, 10 Ways to a Stronger Marriage, is currently on sale both on barnesandnoble.com and amazon.com for $9.99. And if you are an Amazon Prime member, man, you can have that thing here long before Valentine's Day. I think it will go back up to the normal price in about a week, but if you're looking for a really good thing to surprise your spouse with, that might be a good thing. All right, commercial's over. So let's get in to talking a little bit about spicing things up, or what we can do to kind of reconnect as husbands and wife when things get in the way of marriage. And when we talk about things getting in the way of marriage, life, bills, kids, little league, things like that, I think we talked about some of those last week. God didn't design us to have a roommate. God designed marriage so we could have a soulmate. And too oftentimes, you find a couple just living together and doing life together as roommates and not as soulmates. So let's talk a little bit about some things that deal with ways to connect and reconnect as husbands and wives. And so I'm going to see if Miss Morgan wants to take off, and maybe we've got about 10 on here we've kind of jotted off that we're going to look at of ways to reconnect. We mentioned this one last week, but we're going to follow up on it a lot this week.
Yeah, so I guess we're calling this romantic ideas. And, romance is essential to have a healthy marriage, but everybody has a different idea about what they think is romantic. So hopefully these 10 suggestions, something will click with you, and you'll think, that a couple of these things is romantic for you. What's romantic for you your spouse may not think is romantic. So communication is always key in marriage. You need to know, what does your spouse think is romantic, and then do those things for each other that each other finds romantic.
Good point. As couples, as husbands and wives, a lot of times we differ on what we think is romantic. Honestly, most men, not all of them, most men, including myself, if somebody says, hey, what's romantic? And I'm thinking sex. That doesn't always work that way for women. They may not think of something about sex like that. And I specifically remember asking you one time, we were driving down the road, and I said, hey, what are some things that I do that are romantic? And you spouted off 2 or 3 things that really kind of caught me off guard. Do you remember any of those that you said?
I think I said that when you fill up my car with gas.
That's it.
Yeah, when you do the maintenance on my car, when you do little things for me. But of course, you know that acts of service is my love language. And so those things that you do for me, just little things, I consider that romantic. You're speaking my love language when you do acts of service.
And that makes sense. And I think my response to you when you said you fill up my car with gas was something along the lines of, that doesn't have anything to do with sex.
Yeah. And I said, oh, yeah, but you know it really does.
It really does.
It really
And
does.
I learned a lot that day about the difference between what men and women think oftentimes are romantic. But yeah, one of the best things you can do is ask your spouse what they consider romantic, and maybe ask them kind of what I did. What are some things that I do that you think are romantic? Because you may be doing something and you don't know it, and you can do it more often, like maintaining your wife's car with gas, or washing it and keeping the oil changed and things along those lines. And so that's really, really important that you figure out what it is your spouse like and does those things.
I think so, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about dating. So here's the second thing we'll look at is why dating is so important. We date before we get married, and then a lot of times as couples we kind of stop or we slow up once we get married, when dating is actually fuel for our marriage. And so we need to be good at dating even after we've been married. Why is that?
Yeah, I mean, kids come along and we just think, oh, we don't have time to date. We can't afford to date. All that kind of stuff.
Pay a babysitter.
Yeah, paying a babysitter. Wow, we were there. That just eats up the whole budget when you're on a tight one. So yeah, we had to get creative with that. We never have lived during our married life near family that we could call on and say, hey, would you keep the kids for a couple of hours? So let me just say, if you live close to your parents or somebody in your family that keeps your kids on occasion, appreciate them and let them know that you appreciate them, because we did not have that. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, we just kind of depended on some good friends that had kids close to the same age as ours, that we hung out with and that our kids enjoyed playing with. And we'd say, if you guys would keep our kids Friday night, we'll keep your kids on Saturday night. And then we would just swap babysitting. So that took care of that expense. That worked out really well for us. Hopefully it helped them out.
Free babysitting is always good.
Free babysitting, yes. And the dates themselves really don't have to be expensive at all. They don't have to be a big production.
It's about spending time together.
Just about spending time together. You can go to $1, someplace that has $1 menu, order a cheap meal, take a blanket to the park, have a picnic, and then maybe go for a walk. I mean, that's a great date. Cheap date, great date, because you get to spend a lot of time together, a lot of time talking. Maybe your date consists of going for a bike ride and stopping for yogurt. Maybe you don't want to get a babysitter. Maybe you just put the kids to bed early. If you've got some that are young enough that you can do that, you can put them to bed early, and you can order pizza and play a game. Drag out some cards. Sometimes we forget how much fun it is to play a board game or play cards.
Don't just plop down in front of a TV set.
Exactly. I mean, watching movies is great, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But if you like to cuddle on the couch or whatever, but watching a movie doesn't really give you the time to talk and have a conversation that you probably need to have at some point during the evening, during the course of a date. So
and dates, when these are about fun and connecting and reconnecting on dates. So use that time you don't have to discuss all what bills are due and what kids are having problems and the bad stuff that's going on. Sometimes it's good to take a break from conversations like that.
And just have fun.
Yeah.
We talk about don't double date. As far as marriage goes, as far as reconnecting in marriage, of course, we're not saying don't double date, because that's a lot of fun and we enjoy double dates. But for our marriage, we say you still have to have time to go on a date, just the two of you. Because when you double date, the guys usually sit in the front seat and they're talking about guy stuff, and the girls are in the back seat talking about girl stuff. And
true. And
you're connecting with another couple, but you're not connecting just with the two of you as a couple. So it's important to not always just double date. And like I said, dates they can be very simple. It could be as simple as just going for a lunch date during the middle of a work week. If that's the only time you can spare, if your evenings are crammed full, if your weekends are crammed full, then take advantage of a lunch date every once in a while. That can be some good time to just get away, just the two of you.
Yeah, use school or use anything else while the kids are there to do that. Fancy dates are fun. We actually do those about once a year. We'll have a big fancy date where we dress up and go to a concert or something along those lines. And I like that, but we don't do that very often. I was thinking back, knowing we were going to talk about this, I was thinking back to some of my favorite dates that I remember really having a lot of fun. And of course, our dates always center around food to some sort because
of course.
we both liked it. We enjoy eating. We enjoy Tex-Mex. We just enjoy food. And so the two that really came to mind, two or three that really came to mind that I've enjoyed was one time we stopped off at a pizza place and noticed the baseball game on TV over there where you sit at the bar. We don't ever sit at a bar. We always sit at a table. But we decided we would sit at the bar and watch baseball and order a pizza and watched baseball together while we ate. And some reason that always sticks in my mind as one of the more fun things. Another one we did was last summer when everybody had downloaded the app that made you look really old and made you look really young. And we sat in a restaurant. Usually we sit opposite of each other. I don't know how you do it in restaurants. I think we're across from each other. And now if you're one of those people that sit next to each other, we're okay with that. We just sit across from each other. And we find it interesting. We happened that time to sit next to each other so that we could play with this new app and take pictures and make ourselves look young and old. And we laughed and laughed. And I know everybody around us thought, these people are just having way too much fun.
Or are really weird.
Yeah, one of those two. But we had such a fun time with that. And so just playing together. But dating is fun, and we like to date. Our kids used to tell us all the time, why are y'all going without us? And we'd remind them, hey, it's important. We took y'all the last 4 times that we went to go eat somewhere. It's our turn to go. We wanted our kids to see us dating. It's important that our kids see us for more than just mom and dad, that they see us as a husband and a wife, and we give them an example of dating. And that's a healthy thing.
Very healthy.
Yeah. And so we have dated when our kids were at home, and now that our kids are almost all gone, we're still trying to get out and date. And so we enjoy that very much and just spending time together, although we get to spend a lot of time together. So anything else on dating? All right. So we've talked a little bit about asking your spouse what they need. We've talked a little bit about dating. Let's talk about affection for a second, or touching for a second, a way to reconnect. Now, if your spouse's love language is touch, then this will really, they'll really like this, or if this is your love language. But wives love to have their hand held. They love to have their hand held most of the time running when you're going down the road in a car, when you're walking at the mall. It makes them feel like you're proud of them. If you can do something to have some hug, hold their hand. Somebody said in a book one time that everybody needs every wife needs about a 7-second hug per day. I don't know if that's your wife or not. You probably need to ask them that, but to a lot of men, that may sound like 7 seconds. That's forever, and don't look at your watch while you're hugging her. And when it hits 7 seconds, go, okay, break, I'm done. But when you hadn't seen your spouse all day long and you come in, or she comes in, it is a good idea to hug, to kiss, to snuggle on the couch and watch a movie. Just some kind of physical touch is very healthy to kind of reconnect two people together. Got any thoughts on that, Miss Morgan?
I agree. You and I both know that touch is probably more important to you than it is to me.
It is kind of higher on my love language list.
Yeah, but man, I still appreciate my hand being held and hugs when you come in the door, and as far as romance goes, I mean, you can't beat a good back rub or foot massage. So keep those things in mind.
It's a good call on that. Let's do another one. Let's go to the next one, which is, all let's go down here and do this one. Do unexpected things for one another. Or you might want to call it serve one another. And I think that's really important for a husband and a wife to do. And we actually spend a whole chapter talking about this very thing in our book. And we talk about how serving your spouse makes them feel very special. And I want to read just for a second a little excerpt of a book just from chapter 7, Treat Your Spouse Better Than They Deserve. And it says, I like this part. And when we were writing this book, I was sitting there thinking about, we were talking about what we had done for each other that day. And here's I'll just read from this. Serving one another and doing little things for one another is one of the healthiest things you can do in marriage. Thinking back on my day, Lee has brought me coffee this morning. She's told me that I am awesome, and she has let me know that she missed me today when I was gone. She's also fixed supper for me. I know that she loves me because her actions have shown that today. And then I continue, also today, I was extra quiet in the morning so that she could sleep in. I've reminded her that she is beautiful. I even filled her car up with gas. I love her, and she can tell by my actions. Marriage is about little things. It can be as good as two people are willing to make it. Marriage is not always what you think or hear in this world. It's often much better. And I just thought that was a great way to kind of sum up serving one another and doing little things for one another. And it's just, somebody asked us on Facebook this morning, posed the question to a group of people and said, what's something that your spouse did to lighten your load or do something for you? And I thought of several things yesterday you did, but the one that came to mind was I was trying to head out the door to the post office with a whole bunch of packages to mail, and I was trying to hold them and not spill them, and you said, let's put those in a sack so it'll be easier for you to carry. Now, part of that may have been because you thought I was going to drop them everywhere.
You would have dropped them everywhere.
But at the same time, you were thinking of how can I make this easier for my husband? And you loaded all those up and you helped put them in a sack, and you made it was so much easier for me to do that because I always don't slow down long enough to do things the easy way, and sometimes I take the quick way. But serving one another is one of those things that's really good.
And I know at least once a day, I'm certain that you ask me, what can I do to help you? Is there anything I can do right now to help you? And I appreciate that. Don't always let you know that, but I do appreciate that
Thank
you're
you.
Always willing to help me out with whatever I might need done.
There you go. And if you don't know how, maybe you can ask. Maybe one of the things you do is just go, is there something I can do to help you? And I don't know if this is a good time to mention it right now, but if your spouse asks you, and they mean it, find them something. If there's something you can do to help them, they may not notice that there's dishes in the sink or something. We'll talk about that in another podcast down the road. But if your spouse is looking for a way to serve you and they say, what can I do to help you today? And you can think of something, let them know. It's all right to let them help you do something.
Yep. You skipped that one on purpose. Were you gonna?
I was going to get back to it. Go.
Okay. Let's talk about just quick.
Yeah.
I think one of the healthiest things that we do in our marriage is going on walks together. It just provides lots of time for us to talk. It's a healthy, physically healthy thing to do. So I think if that's not something that you and your spouse do on a regular basis, try it. I think you will like making that part of your routine, just going on walks around the neighborhood together.
Yeah, we put that on our list because I think it's important. When you're walking, you're not looking at a cell phone. It gives you a chance to, as we're talking today, reconnect. And that's kind of what we're trying to do as husband and wife. And if you take off and go around the block a few times or go walk through the park or let the kids play on the equipment while you walk, that's just a really healthy thing to do. So that is a good thing. All right, what's next on our list that we can talk about on reconnecting as husband and a wife?
Let's see. We've got watching movies on the couch together. This can be a fun way to reconnect if you like that snuggle time. Maybe one thing that we haven't done in a long time, but we always enjoy it was when we get out our old wedding video and sit and watch that or even look through old picture albums. Maybe it doesn't have to be a movie. Maybe you can do something, to take you down memory lane.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We always laugh every time we watch that old wedding video of just stuff we've missed and didn't pick up on. And I'm thankful today for a guy at our wedding who said something about, I'd like as a gift to video your wedding. And I remember thinking, why would we ever want that? And today we love looking back over that thing, because I would not have remembered much of it at all.
No.
30 something years later, and as nervous as I was.
Yeah, all the little details that we've forgotten, and
Yeah, exactly.
it's a lot of fun to go back and
So
watch.
watch a movie together, or hang out. We have favorite TV shows, and one of the things we enjoy doing is watching TV together. We'll have certain kind of shows we'll record, and we'll go back and sit down and watch, and then we talk about it. So another way to reconnect. Hey, we're working down our list. We got about 3 or 4 more that we're going to do for a second, and one of the ways that you can reconnect is flirting with one another. That is such a healthy thing to do. Why is that so healthy in marriage? Probably because soulmates do that, and roommates. I mean, if you got a roommate, you're not going to do a lot of flirting with them.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
Flirting is healthy, and
It lets you know that you care about each other, that you're thinking about each other. Yeah.
it's a healthy thing to do. And I will tell you, wives, as a man, I will just about guess your husband absolutely loves it when you flirt with him. You did it a lot before you got married. And he still loves it. It doesn't matter how long you've been married, he still likes when you flirt with him. And you can do that by whatever charm you used to turn on in the old days, it's still there. Send him a flirty text message. Lee is so good at that, and I enjoy that. Write him a note, just something. Take your foot under a table when you're out to eat with a group and rub his leg. That will get his attention. Now, make sure it's his leg, right? That'll get you in trouble.
That is pretty important.
Or
make sure if you're sending a text message that you're not sending it to the family group chat.
Yeah, we had fun learning that. The good thing it was just kind of PG.
Yeah.
But yeah, our boys still tease us a little bit about being scarred. But we're just simply trying to teach them about healthy marriages. So flirt, that's a good thing to do. Write one another a sweet note. Send a text message. What wife doesn't like a good morning beautiful text? What wife doesn't like to wake up or midday just get a text from her husband that says, I was thinking about you, I want you to know I love you today? Wives like that kind of stuff, guys. And it takes all of 30 seconds for you to sit down and do that.
They do.
Tell them that you're just thinking about them. That's healthy.
Yeah. I'm going back to flirting for just a half a second.
Hey, I'm good with flirting.
To let wives know your husbands are very visual. So be visually attractive when it comes to flirting. I think that men appreciate that a lot.
Oh, I think so too. We're going to talk a whole lot more about that next week. I'm excited. Next week's podcast, Valentine's week, we're going to talk about sex and intimacy in the podcast, and we're going to talk more exactly about what Lee said.
Yeah.
In dealing with that. And so that's going to be fun.
So I want to talk a lot about, I'm not saying, walk around every day dressing immodestly, but in your own home, you know what I'm saying. You can be visually attractive to your husband.
That's exactly right. We'll talk about that next week. That's going to be fun. I like it when you back up things along those lines. We were talking about cards. Hey, and again, guys, Valentine's Day's next week. Get that card. Better than that, write your own card. Let your spouse know. We actually still do, some little markers you can write on a mirror in the bathroom. And oftentimes we would leave one another little notes. It all started, I guess, when we used to get out of the shower and the shower was steamy, and we would leave little notes and you couldn't see it until somebody else got in the shower and it steamed back up. And that was kind of a fun, flirty way to have a little fun there. Here's one. Let's talk about.
If your kids use your bathroom and they can read, you might want to rethink that one.
Yeah, there was a few times when Lee would you could see where she had marked out something that I had written, so her kids didn't see it. But yeah, that was fun. That's good stuff. Here's one. A weekend away. We've always said, or we talk about, a date. Man, if you got little kids, a date twice a month, twice a year, go overnight somewhere. It's important that you get away and be husband, wife, and just have some overnight time to where you can go get a motel room, go on a long, fun date, something along those lines to where you can get away. It's just a healthy thing to reconnect.
It's very healthy to get away from just the everyday stresses of
You don't have to have kids at home.
work and of bills and of doing laundry and cooking dinner, and it's just good to get away and to relax and not have to think about anything at all except each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of distractions at home, and a staycation, you can get some stuff done around the house, but when you can just sneak off somewhere, it's just really, really healthy. And then we got about 3 or 4 minutes left for our time is up, and this is the last one, and this is our thought process for next week, but we'll go ahead and kind of introduce it, is intimacy or being sexual with one another. And that's definitely a way to spark things up or heat things up in your marriage. Sex is how we reconnect as a husband and wife. That's how God's designed it, is to reconnect. And being more sexual with your spouse is a healthy thing to do. We're going to talk a little bit next week about what happens when your schedule is so busy that you don't have time for sex. Great sex, I read somewhere today, great sex is less about you need to do this for me and more what can I do for you when it comes to sex. And I'll remind the guys listening, and I hope we got some guys listening to the podcast, good sex begins really outside the bedroom when your clothes are still on. You've heard the phrase sex starts in the kitchen. Start early in the day with a good morning beautiful text, or call for no reason, or she still probably likes the flowers and the flirting and the kissing. And some of the best aphrodisiacs for your wives include things like conversation. When you come home and she says, how was your day? You say, good. And she says, what'd you do today? Don't say, nothing. Let her know about your day. Have conversation with her. Help her around the house. Do some things to take a load off of her. Make her feel pursued outside the bedroom, not just inside the bedroom. That makes sense, doesn't it?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I mentioned earlier the back rub. You can, give your wife a back rub standing in the kitchen without expecting to immediately run to the bedroom. You do those things. Not expecting anything in return, and you'll probably likely get something in return.
There you go. So next week, we're going to talk about intimacy and sex in marriage, and just, hey, Valentine's week, and really that shouldn't be the only time we're talking about these things, but we talk about this a lot in our marriage podcast, or in our workshop. So 2 things I'm going to remind you before we close out today. We have our podcast. You can find us anytime at thestrongermarriagepodcast.com. thestrongermarriagepodcast.com.
If you leave out the you're gonna go somewhere else. I found that out.
Yeah. And if you want to know more about our book, and we've just built a new web page that just really kind of specifies, here's what our book looks like, and it's got some links to some of our stuff. We'd love for you to check it out. And it's thestrongermarriagebook.com. And I will include both of these in the notes today when we upload in a second. And so we're excited about that. We want you to check some stuff out. We just want to do what we can to help bless your marriage. That is our goal, is trying to do our best to bless your marriage. We're thankful that you listened today, and we hope that you'll subscribe. And if you can leave a review on a podcast for us that you like this, it will really help get the word out a little bit more.
Yeah, we just appreciate you tuning in.
We are honored you've come our direction, and we hope that you guys have a great day. See you next week.
Bye-bye.